Hello everyone, welcome to my tutorial. Today's tutorial I'm going to talk about the Spring Boot. So Spring Boot is a framework which is based on Java and it supports microservices. There are so many other features of Spring Boot, but let's talk about the microservices first. So microservice is nothing but an architecture and which is getting popularity nowadays. So in order to understand microservices, let's talk about the opposite architecture that is called the monolithic architecture. And then we have over here the microservices. We already know that an application do have different layers, right? So in a monolithic architecture, what happens is everything is bundled together. So we have over here the UI, okay? And then let's say this is based on JSP. And then we have the middle tier, which is based on pure Java. And then we have the DB connectivity, which is also based on Java, and there are different frameworks for that. So all of these in a monolithic architecture are bundled all together. Okay, and then you can see that this is connected to the DB. So anything changed over here, okay, let's say you are going to change something over here in the UI. What we have to do, we have to take the whole code base and change. So that means these are highly coupled. So we call it highly coupled. So highly coupled means that these are too much dependent to each other. Okay, so if something is broken over here, one functionality broken over here, we have to take the whole code base and then change it. On the other hand, microservices is something different. In the microservices, we have over here the UI, okay, and then we have the microservice 1, microservice 2, and microservice 3. So these are all what? These are all separate microservices and separate based on their functionalities. So let's say this is the registration, this is the validation, and this is the checkout. Okay, and then we have our data layer. Okay, and then this is connected to DB, this is connected to DB, and this is connected to DB. So what happens over here, if something is broken in the microservices, for the registration service is broken, so this is connected over here, this is connected over here, and this is connected over here. So see, like these are all independent, so we call that to be loosely coupled. So in case, let's say the registration service is broken, okay, but still we can have the validation and checkout going on. Okay, so this is a very simplified example of a e-commerce. Okay, so again, what happens over here, if for some reason this service is broken, we can still work with this, or the clients can still work with this, okay, because these are independent. Okay, so this service doesn't know anything about this service, and this service doesn't know anything about this service. But over here, what happens is these three things, the registration, and then the validation, and then the checkout, all of these three are bundled in the same WAR file, or in the same YAR file, whatever you say, or whatever the way that we have deployed it. But over here, it's totally different. So this is one of the benefit of the microservices, and this is what the microservice is. That means, again, we break our functions. Okay, so this is considered as a function. This registration process is a function, this validation is a function, this checkout is a function, and then we break all the activities into different functions and create services for each of the functions. Okay, so that means each of the service representing a function which is independent to each other, and then they are therefore loosely coupled. And this is for the difference between the microservices and the monolithic services. In the monolithic service, what happens that we get everything, or we bundle everything, or everything is tagged together. But in microservices, these are loosely coupled. Okay, so now let's look into the definition part of it. I have said that open source Java based framework used to create microservice, and then the benefit again, you can see from the PowerPoint slide over here, it's loosely coupled services which can be developed, deployed, and maintained independently. So this is very important. This is one of the most feature of the microservice, that loosely coupled services can be deployed, developed, and maintained independently. So each of the services is responsible for a single task and can communicate with other services through RESTful APIs. So we'll be talking about the RESTful API, what it is, and how to build it in the shortly in the other tutorial. And then services can be tested and deployed separately and independently, making it very simple to develop. Now, one of the features of Spring Boot is that we can create the microservices, and then now let's look into the other features. And it says that web development, easy and quick web development module with self-contained HTTP server. So self-contained HTTP server is something that we call it to be the embedded server, and we're going to use the Tomcat web server for this. So that means you do not need to deploy a separate Tomcat server. The Tomcat server is bundled within the Spring Boot. Then starter dependencies make application configuration easier. YAML support. YAML is a human-readable data-serialization standard that can be used to write configuration files, and Spring Boot supports it. Okay, so we can see from here that there are many features in Spring Boot that can help our configuration and deployment easier. And then properties file. Spring Boot supports properties file, which can be used for setting different properties for configuration. Embedded server, I just talked about that, and we are using the Tomcat, and with the embedded server it's very faster, and I'll show you in the tutorial that how we can really develop quickly using the embedded server. Flexibility of creating YAR and WAR files, so we have the option whenever we are creating our application that what we want. Are we going to create the YAR file or WAR file? And then security provides all security supports that Spring provides. Okay, so in a nutshell, that Spring Boot is has some features, and the features are really very useful for quick configuration and for quick deployment. And also it supports the microservices, and we have talked about the microservices, that how to make it. Okay, so that's all for today. Thank you.